Brian Noble, you mentioned being proud of the players' efforts despite that loss to Salford.
Yeah.
Has there been any specific aspects of the game last week when you've done the review that you feel the team can improve on?
Yeah, I thought we didn't handle a couple of things that Salford threw at us, and we'll practice that and we'll rectify that. But with the situation being a part-time club, sometimes you can't cover everything, and when something new comes up, you go about fixing it, and that's what we've been doing. With the attitude that we had last week, I'm pretty confident we'll be in decent shape this week to get into the nuts and bolts of what we're about, you know, the Championship and latterly this month the 1895 Cup.
Anybody who was there will have seen that commitment, and you've just used the word, the attitude from the side. How do you plan to build on the positives from that Salford performance as the club heads back into the Championship season?
Well, we did a lot of positive things, and we need to add some more positives to. There were a couple of negatives in there that are not us, that we don't recognise, so we had to talk about them. And there are certain areas that I think we can really improve on to improve our chances of winning games. I think you mentioned it in the post-match scrub up. You know, 9-3 penalty count, 9-2 penalty count. Some of those are in our control. Some of the ways we kick the ball is in our control. And I can only reinforce that, you know, whilst not being happy, because we're never happy we get beaten, I think we're still on the right lines.
On that discipline and focus, the 9-3 penalty count, how much of that do you feel influenced the overall outcome of the game, and how much of that as sort of like a visual learning tool is being communicated to the players?
We try to control the things that are in our control. That's a big mantra for us. Sometimes those things are out of your control, but at least 50% of those penalties were justified, so we had to talk about them and saying what we could do better and use it as a positive. We set ourselves goals at the start of the year as to how we wanted to be represented on the discipline front, if that's the right word. It's just a concentration front for me, and we'll be looking to improve that and getting back to our standards. I think we've been pretty good all year in that respect, so it's quite a shock on Friday night, without being too retrospective, to come up with that, because I saw both sides having a lot of rucks, and I didn't see too much difference in the ruck speeds or techniques in the rucks. So, you know, I'd have to have an answer for where we went wrong. We've asked for that answer, and we'll probably get one. So we'll adhere to that, and we'll try to be better this week.
When you look at that sort of effort, execution, are you happy that the players see and know that line in terms of that commitment, that enthusiasm, and the importance, Brian, of not overstepping it so that the referee does give a set restart or a penalty?
Well, we want to be an aggressive team. We want to be a physical team. But there are rules that come with the game, and the rules, the boundaries that you can't overstep. And as I say, I thought a lot of them were debatable last Friday night. And it's important that we don't overreact, because we are a disciplined team. That's a hugely focused thing of my coaching. We have to be disciplined to get what we want, because it's in our control. And I can only reinforce, I'm not overly worried about it, because we're a very disciplined team when we're on.
You famously said back in 2005, Brian, you've always kind of said to your teams, whether it's at Bradford, at Wigan, at North Wales, be 12 points in front so the referee's decisions can't influence the game. Does that still carry that kind of same sort of weight as it did 20 years ago into 2025?
Well, of course it does. That's game management. You know, we got ourselves ahead on Friday night, didn't quite get enough ahead where we could cope with different decisions, if that's the right expression. I don't detract away from that. I don't take that statement away. It's still as relevant now as it's always been. But we have to control the ball a whole lot better than we did as well. I think we had 8 errors. So there are some things that are in our control. If we say that half of the penalties are in our control and the errors are pretty much in our control, then we've got whole lot of improvement to come. You know, we've played 2 full-time teams. The games were quicker, definitely. Anybody watching what we've gone through this year and these 2 particular games would say, but I thought we shut through some shapes at Salford that they didn't expect and they didn't want. And I thought we did some good things, as well as, you know, we got beat. We don't like getting beat, but we have to live with it. You know, it's about what we do next, and it's always about what you do next.
You must be pleased with the fitness and the energy levels of the side. I know after the game I spoke to a couple of players. I think it was Kieran Gill who mentioned he'd been up since 5 o'clock on the day of that game, and come 10:30 when I was interviewing him after the game, he said he was absolutely knackered. You know, he's put his body through the burner, but you know, you must be pleased with where the fitness levels are, because it was only really late on where Salford ultimately got that game over the line.
Yeah, it's a good reflection, but I'm frustrated with what we can do and can't do, the players, you know, with the travel element of this 2-week block that we've just been through. We've lost a couple of practice sessions, and so when you don't have many practice sessions at all, it's difficult then to throw them into a fitness regime that they've been doing. So we've had to take that on the chin. But they do look when they're on, and if we play the ball the way that, you know, if we play the game the way that we want to play the game, we'll look a whole lot fitter as well. Because if you're defending your chalk all the time and you're not looking after the ball and you're not kicking it properly, boy, it's a tough game. So a backward compliment for our lot was we did way too much defence on Friday night, way too much, and to come up with what they came up with, I thought was a massive effort.
After the game, you mentioned Franklin Pelly left the field with a head injury. What's the latest on Franklin, Brian? Has he passed the protocols for this weekend?
He passed the game protocols, but there were some symptoms that weren't right, so he won't play this weekend, so he'll have to wait for another week. So that's a disappointment for us. Franklin's been getting better and better, but we've got plenty of other people in the squad that have got an opportunity now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Is this just part of the new RFL's mandatory 11-day protocols?
Yeah.
He would be okay to be in contention for Featherstone next week?
Yes.
And just on Franklin Pelly, obviously he's played in all the games so far. Big, powerful running player, Oddsall, smaller, tighter pitch. You probably wanted a Franklin Pelly on the field, but as you say, opportunity for some of the other players.
We've got enough in the tank. We understand what's coming. Barrow, a very determined team, well coached by Paul Creary. They always seem to give us a run for the money wherever or whenever we play them, so we've got to be really ready. But our fans will help. I thought our fans last week were as good as they've ever been. It was a joy to behold. You know, we filled that one end. I thought there were more Bradford fans than Salford fans, and the noise and the enthusiasm and the energy they gave our players was exemplary.
Jordan Lilly, I saw him on Sunday, and he looked like a biblical figure, Brian. With
Jordan two heads.
With the black eyes. Is he okay? Jordan told me Sunday he's good to go, even though it looks like he's had 5 or 6 rounds with Rocky Balboa.
Well, he may look like Quasimodo, but he'll be all right. He'll play. He's a tough kid.
You mentioned post-match after Salford, obviously some of the players that missed out last week, Eben Skur, you're going to have a look at them. What's the latest on Eben?
Eben won't be in the mix. George Tafua won't be in the mix. Clearly Tom Holmes won't be in the mix. So, you know, we go with what we've got. We're down to, I think, 19, 20 players, which is a whole lot better than last year. We were farming out all over the place last year at the start of last year. 4 players. And it's important that we hold our nerve. I'm confident with the ones that we're going to be putting out there.
Sam Hallis was a late withdrawal last week.
He was. He's cool. He's good to go. So Sam will be in the mix.
Tyra, not you said.
No. He's got a fractured cheekbone, so he'll be 5 or 6 weeks yet.
And when you look at the players that went to Hunsley, Mason Corbett, Emmanuel Wainey, is there perhaps an inkling this week, Brian, you might be picking up the phone to Dean Muir and saying we might need those players back?
Definitely. I'd be foolish to let Emmanuel go when we're skinny on numbers. Mason Cobbett's a bit different. He's a development player. He went really well, I think, for Hunslet, and I think they're keen to keep him around. So I think playing at that level of football will do him the world of good as well. So I've no objections to that one.
I know you've mentioned in the past the season's now kind of like getting in that nitty gritty, and you don't want to be making wholesale changes, but the injuries and I guess the rugby league gods and the curses at this moment in time look like they're coming down on you, Brian.
That's the nature of the beast. We started the season with being reasonably healthy. We've got people fighting for places, and then week 3, week 4, you've got 6 out. Some of them for long periods, but we've got to cope with that. Everybody else has got the same decisions to make, I'm sure, at their clubs. You've got to go hope. I said at the start of this adventure that keeping your horses healthy was one of the main criteria to being a successful team. It's no different. We've got a little bit more latitude in our squad, and so we've got some good players that are going to show their worth.
You've already highlighted it's Barrow at Odsal on Friday night. The message going into Salford was an improvement on Toulouse. What's the message to the players this week?
Still the same, week in, week out improvement. We showed the review on Monday, and a lot of things we did that we wouldn't be happy with by our standards. We have to maintain our standards. I think some of our principles of how we play were difficult because of where we played the game on Friday. It was our end all the time. We didn't have any options. I've already said the effort that they put in with the amount of defence they had to do. And the cure for that is simple. Don't do as much defence, and you'll see some better things with the ball and what you do to them at their end of the field. But we understand the nature of the challenge against Barrow. It would be foolish. It's one of those, I don't know, you journalists and people call them banana skins, don't they? So they're top of the league, I think. They're either 2 from 3 or 3 from 3, so they can play. And they've always managed to find a game plan that has troubled us. So in many respects, we own.
I think the second in the table, Brian, and they've had a very strong start to the season. What do you see as Barrow's biggest threats, and how are you preparing for them on Friday?
Well, we looked at some pictures. Again, they're starting the season like us, but I know the way that Paul Creary coaches. He's quite smart, so we'll be working on a couple of those things. But they've got some proven performers in their team, haven't they? Over a number of years, you can't go without talking about Stack within their team and what he does for them and what he doesn't do for them. But what he always does is has a team that collectively has a dig. And with that, with the nature of rugby league, you have to be patient against them because they do throw some shapes on them. I think we have to take a bit of juice out of them and get them tired so that we can do what we want to do.
You certainly saw a fully committed performance in their last championship game, the way they defended against a big physical Oldham side. I guess that's kind of helping you in the review to have those images and vision for the players. This is what you're going to expect on Friday.
A lot of our issues are game management issues. So we need to recognise that whilst we're a talented team and when we throw the ball around it looks good and we do things, there are certain other things that we have to constantly do to a team to get what we want. And that's no different with Barrow on Friday night. They'll come really well prepared. The crowd can help us, make a lot of noise, bang the drums, get the boys to the right end of the field, and then we're just looking for a little bit more composure than we've shown recently.
Will that reflect, because I think it was after Salford, Brian, you mentioned you're looking for better ball retention and kicking. Is that somewhere that...
Yeah, they're still the same two things.
Putting a bit of a highlight on.
It's still the same two things. You've got to be able to kick the ball well, and in the main, I think we've had a look at it, the players and myself and Greenie, and we've thought, well, we're not giving our best chance by kicking the ball that way, so we need to do it slightly different.
Challenge Cup out of the way, back to the bread and butter. How important is this game? No secret, Brian. Bradford have won the last 8 at home. Odsal slowly becoming a fortress once again.
Yeah, but it only becomes a fortress if you keep reinforcing the principles behind that. And so I keep mentioning within this interview that we've still got a way to go to have our composure and understanding what we're good at. I'm pretty confident that they got the message and we have to act upon that message now.
And just finally, Bradford have had a month away from Odsal. Must be good to finally be back home after those 4 away games. It seems
brilliant.
It almost seems an eternity from
it does seem like a long
cold
time.
Sunday afternoon in the rain against London to what I do believe is going to be 18, 19 degrees on Friday.
At 7:45 at night, I don't think it'll be 18.
Well,
mate, you've not been at Bradford enough, mate.
Through
the day, I've got you.
Yeah.
I think it'll be near 8 or 9 at night time. But yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm looking forward to an evening game at Odsal. I'm looking forward to trying getting back into the winning enclosure, but we're under no illusions of how difficult that will be.